Start the meeting.
So I can go ahead. I'm okay to start. Thank you everyone for your patience. I want to go ahead and get this committee meeting started. Welcome to the March 29th, 2021 ad hoc committee meeting on communications for the Akron Public School Board. My name is Diana Autry, and I'll just have, if everyone here could introduce themselves on this committee. I know most of you were here, or some of you were here at our previous meeting on February 17th. So if everyone could just introduce themselves at this time, and then we'll proceed on.
Patrick Bravo.
Bruce Alexander.
Val McKittrick.
May Walker.
David James.
Joanne Isaac.
Oops, sorry. Mark Williamson.
Lloyd Dane Wynn.
Thank you everyone for being here again. So just as a reminder, I'll start every meeting off just by reading the purpose of the meeting and the reason why it was formed. And that would be to study the communities and constituencies that the district has received low to no connection with utilizing current tools, and to ID our practices and conclude with a report and recommendations to the board to share with administration on who these constituencies are, ideas on how to close any gaps, and what are the messages that we want to share that may broaden our appeal. Okay, so it seems like it's been forever since we last met, which again was February 17th. So just reviewing some of those highlights, you know, we met some of the team members and what their current roles were. We discussed some of the challenges that we have. One of those challenges that was identified with some of our communication in the North Hill cluster, as well as very good raving reviews about Noi Nguyen, which is why she's been invited to this meeting today. We discussed some of the opportunities that we have to improve our communication, including free media, billboards that reach a broader audience. We also currently, of course, use social media, all calls, emails, etc. Some of the highlights included discussing our Gilby campaign. Mr. Bruno was here. And also, we are going to be utilizing a tool called HubSpot. And today, hopefully, we'll get some updates from Mr. Williamson on that. One of the other challenges that we talked about is being cognizant of not overwhelming our families with so much information that we have going on in the district. Was there anything that anybody else wanted to add to that? Of course, you can review the meeting notes. Yes, Mr. Williamson.
Tommy is trying to get to join us. He is working on that. He was on the other site. I sent him a link from the calendar, so hopefully he'll be able to join us in a second, because he's always extremely helpful. So
he's very helpful. Yeah, I learned about his role as you bring him up as part of the Summit Radio, which gives a lot of support of APS. And so we'll always keep that in mind as we're moving forward and how we can utilize that existing tool that we have. So are there any other comments about the previous meeting information before we move forward? And just so you know, I am very open to any ideas on how the agenda should run, but I thought we would start off the meetings, again, just reviewing the purpose, reviewing the previous meeting highlights, and then getting perspectives. And I would love to get input on invited perspectives to the meeting, and then updates, utilizing that perspective and how we can maybe integrate some of the things that we hear about, and maybe even highlighting some successes that we've encountered from the previous meeting.
We've we've been using the HubSpot format more. I'll just briefly explain to everybody that HubSpot is like a platform that we can use to speed and organize. This is an oversimplification. Speed and organize the way we get messages out on social media, specifically Facebook. So we've started to sort of experiment with about 28 of our schools. Normally what we do is we post things on the Akron Public Schools district Facebook page. But what we are able to do now, and we want to make the list bigger and eventually include all of our schools, which won't take that long, but we're trying with a smaller number, about half, to be able to post appropriate messages that fit the district schools on various, mostly elementary school Facebook pages right now. So I can go on and do a post, like a Facebook post, and click and send simultaneously, or schedule it to send simultaneously, messages to all of the participating schools and Facebook accounts. We think this is going to be, well, we know this is going to be more effective than the website, because more people are using Facebook, more of our parents use it, more families are on it, looking at it. They share things, which is a real plus for us, because if people see things, we can watch them take something they like and share it with other people, whether they're with us or with anybody else. So we've increased our exposure quite a bit. I don't know exact numbers, but it just has to work that way, because we've added an entirely new audience to our messaging, and we have a lot. So, for instance, this morning, Cyberlink School put out a really nice Facebook post about, they do a family, it's the family of the week, and they're doing this through the rest of the school year. And they have a picture of one of their little students sitting beneath their marquee sign outside. It's actually really cute. And I put it on our website, but then I also posted it on the Facebook pages of all the schools that are participating in our HubSpot experiment, if you will. And then those schools started to share it with other schools and other people. So it's effective. It's definitely effective at getting out any kind of story we want just to more people, which is what we talked about last time that we needed to do. And I won't say it's a simple solution, but it's simpler than most.
So Mark, I have a question. So does each school have a designated person that manages their particular content, or how does that work exactly?
Well, that's a really good question, because they don't. And principals were hoping, and I'm trying to communicate with all of them to sort of get this out. We tried to do with the websites and have each school have a web person take care of things, and it's been very cumbersome. We've had a lot of difficulty getting that to work. And to be honest with you, websites today are sort of an outmoded way of putting urgent news out. And they're okay for fixed information, I think, that doesn't change a lot, like a billboard or static phone numbers, addresses, programs, new things that we might be having, but not necessarily something like breaking news or something that needs to be posted right away, because there wasn't a lot of immediacy doing it that way. With Facebook, we can control how quickly it gets posted, what it looks like, and then they don't have to worry about it. So we've identified 28 of the schools that have been using theirs fairly regularly, which means they have somebody there. I don't know how they did it. I really don't know, but there is some sort of investment in those particular schools where the principal maybe do it, or maybe does it, or maybe the principal has somebody else do it. But it's working pretty well. And with these kinds of things, they're fun. Facebook is fun for people. People go home at night and everybody knows how to do it. So I don't believe we're going to have any learning curve on this. All that is really required is that once people start to do it, see that it works, they'll do more, because it brings attention to the good things they're doing in their schools, like a live newsletter. It's more urgent, it's more consequential than a website, because people know that it's changing, it's kind of breathing, and you can make quick pivots on it if you have to. You know, it's really good for school closings, things like that, like we had on Friday. It's very effective for that. So I definitely think this is going in the right direction, but we're just scratching the surface of what HubSpot can do. We're just kind of getting started, Diana, right now, but we'll get, you know, it's like anything else. We'll get better at it, and it'll get easier. And I think it's a really good development for us, though. I really do. That's kind of a long answer to a short question. So I do that a lot.
So another question I have regarding that then, is this something that we can somehow give some type of incentive, or I guess when I think about student council advisors or those supplemental contracts, I don't know if David can maybe answer that or speak to that. I mean, with the importance of communication, is this something that can be assigned to someone as a supplemental contract, or I don't know?
Yeah, typically the supplemental contracts are listed in our teachers union contract and usually are supporting, you know, the schools. It might not be a qualifier for that, but you know, it could potentially be maybe just a different position that's paid some kind of stipend or something. But that's something we can research in the finance office.
It's I will say this, Diane. I think that when we talk to and have a discussion with the rest of the maybe 20 or so principals in schools and ask them to give us administrative rights so we can join in posting with them, and they start to see what we're posting on their sites, they may want to jump in. We have different levels. We have some schools that are really active. We have some that are totally inactive, not many. And then some of them, as you imagine, are sort of in the middle there somewhere. But I think once people see that it's working, I just think human nature is such that they're going to want to maybe even ask us, how do we do this better? You know, I don't know. We'll have to see how organized we want it to be honest with you. I think this might be the kind of thing that can be done with less organization rather than more, maybe something a little less cumbersome with fewer rules, as long as the principals agree, because it's not hard to find somebody in your building that can do this, quite honestly.
Thank you. Are there any other comments about the HubSpot or questions about how it's working?
Yeah, does it make sense to everybody? I mean, you guys are all sort of communications people anyway, and David's a high-tech guy, so, you know, I think I'm sure he gets it.
Mark, I just have a question. I know HubSpot has language translations. Is that something that we are exploring? I know that I think I looked it up, and I believe Nepali, which is our biggest population, I don't think they offer Nepali, but I don't know if you knew if that was down the pipeline.
It is. We're working on. I mean, we've looked into it. We haven't had a lot of time to get to look into that particular part of this, but we want to. And you know, it might be something we have to add on that's an additional expense, but clearly that would be worth the investment. Obviously, because everything that you do for us and everything you translate for us is it's valuable and it's necessary, and it should just be the way we do everything, quite honestly, at this point in time. So our website does it, which is great. Facebook, you know, some other platforms are not as versatile in some of those other languages that aren't the top. I don't know how many there are, you know, the European languages and some, but because we have a lot, so some of these may be a little bit off the beaten path, but we're going to try.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
I have one comment. The idea of the HubSpot to me was exciting because Mark spoke to how some of the buildings have a lot, some don't have a lot, and HubSpot really unifies APS as a district and all of the buildings so that everybody's not separated. So not only can we push things out to school sites, it populates their site. So if they're at a lull or they don't have a lot of things that are on there, it doesn't look empty for, weeks at a time. And it also helps to keep everything together. So sometimes schools, there might be something at the district level and schools either forget to put it on, or maybe they think their parents might not need it. And when the district has that control to push it out, it's almost more comprehensive than everybody doing it on their own. And I know Mark and I have talked a lot about that. That's definitely, in my eyes, one of the greatest benefits of HubSpot.
I think one of the things too, Joanne, that's a great point. Thanks for bringing that up. I think there'll be a lot of enthusiasm for it once people start to find out about it. But the other part of this that's important is that these, everything that we put out there has a way of gaining a little bit of momentum. And then as it builds, nothing succeeds like success, as they say. And I think that our web experiment has proven that sort of in reverse in a lot of ways. I've been pretty disappointed with that. And I'm glad we have another option here that people can do without it being so difficult that they are discouraged. And the other thing is kids are taking, families, people take pictures, teachers take pictures. Everybody's very image oriented. I don't mean that ego-wise, I mean physical image oriented these days. All you need is a photo, like the little girl at Cyberlink. It doesn't have to be a story. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. Photographic images are what really matter the most. And the hardest part for us is policing it. And I hate to use that word, but it's a little bit difficult. It's a little unwieldy to try to keep up with and monitor everything. And we really do have to rely on the school building leaders to do that for privacy reasons for our kids and all of those things. We have to be very, very careful of that. And so there will be, Diana, there will have to be somebody in the building that's going to be the go-to person. So if something happens, we need to find that person. So that's something we're going to have to work out.
Any other comments or questions for Mark?
Mark, that's a wonderful, wonderful point, because we know that within our districts, we do have students who are documented as well as undocumented. So for that privacy piece, it's very important. The principals know, to make sure that the kids' privacy is respected. So that's a very good point. And I think that the community appreciates the fact that, even starting with our website, the fact that we can translate on the website provides our families with a vehicle to access communication and information. So that's very good that Akron Public Schools does that, even though we do know it's the best that, we can do now. Some of the websites do use Google Translate, and for some languages, it's not 100% accurate, but we do tell our families that, but they do get the gist of the information. So that's something just to keep in mind.
Well, I think we do need to still have the website presence, a lot of it, for what you just said. I think we need to figure that out, though, is who is going to be the person, who will handle that for our schools. Do we have somebody downtown that is a webmaster that handles the content? There wouldn't be the same amount of content, like the daily news that we're trying to get on there that isn't really working, but the fixed information, personnel in the building, somebody needs to keep up with. Who are the teachers in this school? Who's the principal? Leadership changes and the website doesn't. Those are things that are really important to people. They're not always the fun things, but those are the things people still go to websites for certainty. Like when you go to the restaurant, you go to the website to look at their menu because that's probably, refreshed, something that's fairly recent, hopefully. And I think we're going to have to talk about that. We have to have a discussion about who is going to be the person that's going to do that, or who's going to handle that. So we're not just going to dismiss the websites, because the translation part of that is really valuable for us when it comes to, especially the last year with COVID. Joanne has put so much content on our website, and it's so nice to know that we don't have to worry about, for the most part, whether people understand it, whether it's clear.
Thank you. So, if there are no objections at this time, I think this is a good segue to our invited perspectives to this meeting. As I mentioned, we heard a lot about Noe Win in our last meeting and the great work that you're doing that is challenging, of course. So we thought your voice and perspective was a good one for this particular committee to give us some insight in your thoughts surrounding communication and in particular the purpose that I read at the beginning of the meeting so that we can, incorporate those things as we move forward on this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm going to share a document in the chat. It's the ESL fact sheet, just to let you know a little bit about our diverse population and the number of English learners we have, as well as number of languages. There are 64 languages and dialects right now that we have, as well as 70 countries of origin in Akron Public Schools. Our top 9 languages are Nepali, Burmese, Korean, Spanish, Farsi, Pashto, Swahili, Arabic, and Mon. Most of our translations that we do, we target these top populations. We have 26 language interpreters that support 17 of the languages and dialects. We also have bilingual staff that helps us and cover other languages that our interpreters do not cover. And then we have a contract with Affordable Languages that will cover the rest of our languages. So for our parents, we want to make sure that they are able to access, education, supporting their kids, just like any parent will want to support their kids in a language that they're comfortable with. So Akron Public Schools make sure that we employ language interpreters to help our parents so that they can come to the building anytime and still know that somebody will be there that will help them to communicate to the school system and to answer questions and to support as needed. So I did put in the chat line some languages as well as countries of origin so that the committee can look at. I would tell you the highlighted languages are the ones that we do cover with our language interpreters, but then our language interpreters also speak 6 additional languages that we don't have students that speak that language, but it's nice to know that if we do, we will be covered. So if the committee can look at it, and if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer. I will tell you that a lot of our families, well, some of our families may not read in their language. So what we have been doing is we've been creating multiple videos. So then we are providing written translations as well as oral translations through videos. When we went on COVID, as well as now that we are back, we have a Google form that teachers, staff, bus drivers, any APS staff can put in a Google form to request for an interpreter. As of today, we've had 1,590 interpreter requests, completed requests, keeping in mind that each request doesn't necessarily mean for one student. So sometimes it could be for 5 students, for the interpreters to make a phone call. So that's amazing, the work that our wonderful interpreters have been doing, and the fact that we've trained them to do videos as well as written translations and make sure that they're tech savvy so that they're able to support our families. We've also started Google Classrooms at some of our buildings by languages that the interpreters are starting. We haven't invited a lot of our parents yet, but we are starting to make sure that they are aware how to navigate the Google Classroom. So once our parents are able to navigate, then they can help their kids to do work from home or when teachers use Google Classroom. So that's something that we have in our pipeline so that our interpreters are supporting. I don't know if anyone have any questions. I'd be happy to answer. And I know that May can probably speak to the family liaisons that also created. We have a family liaison who speaks Nepali over at Forest Hill, and she has her own Nepali Google Classroom for parents.
Wow. That's great.
Thank you. I do have a question. In my role at Akron Children's Hospital, I work with Pacific interpreters a lot. So I know families call and you just never know if it's an emergency or not. Our interpreters are able to get on the line like pretty quickly, usually within 3 minutes or less. So I'm just curious, you mentioned like bus drivers. What would be an example of a bus driver using this? And how fast is like the turnaround for something like that?
So for us, we ask for 3 days, but if it's an emergency to pick up the phone, they call me. And the turnaround time will be within the 5 minutes within working hours, less than probably 5 minutes. And we also use affordable languages. So that's a 24/7 online through the phone. So we can pick up the phone and then we can do a 3-way phone call. For the bus drivers, we just did a translation for Purell in the buses because the kids didn't know how to use the push. Was it push or pull? So we translated it. So now they tape multiple languages on there so the kids would know to get Purell. So that means some things like that. Student services have used us a lot for those too. But that's one of the things we have. So all the buses that has Purell actually has a sign taped to the Purell that tells the kid to push down.
Well, things you never think about.
So you take all the personal calls that are at an emergency?
I do.
How busy can you be with that?
If you ask my husband, he'll probably say I'm on my phone 24/7. But between the Google Classroom, the Google form, the emails, and the emergency phone calls, I'm pretty much on my phone a lot because we just have to make sure that we are there to support our families. And I also have support in my department. I do have refugee liaisons that work with me, and we tier the work so that we are always there, but nobody's working 24/7.
Lori, what's the most challenging, job or part of what you have to do with this? I think I know what you're going to say, but no, just for everybody's benefit. When I come to you at the last minute and say we need all this, what's the hardest part of what you have to do?
I would say the hardest part for me is the turnaround time because, we do support all departments and we have English learners in all 43 buildings. And with the translations, when we have multiple requests for translations and sometimes it's turnaround time of a day, that makes it hard. So the interpreters work 5 days a week for 24 hours. And what we've done is Monday through Thursday, they work at the building level to support at the building. But one day out of the week, it's called their district day. So we layered it. So there's always translations going on Mondays and Fridays. So when the departments share them with me, we send them out, we set it so the interpreters know Monday through Friday, they do district translations. And then within the other days, they do building translations. And let me share with you an example of our master translation so you can see all the translations and videos we've created. I'll copy that and put it in the chat line.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? And if not, I would love to hear from May Walker as well, who's new on this meeting. If you could tell us a little bit about what your role is, and then you can share any comments that you might have as well.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this meeting. And my role is to assist the family liaisons at the buildings where we have them. I am a former principal, and I've been working in the community relations office since 2013 with Carla Chapman. When I started out with them, there were only 7. Now we have up to 28 that we're trying to make sure we have on board. We have openings right now that we're trying to fill. But presently we have 16 elementary schools with family liaisons. We have 3 middle schools with family liaisons, and we have 2 high schools with family liaisons. And their focus is to be the connector with families. I tell them all the time that you are that smile, you are that calming force that they feel comfortable with to come and to talk to you. I have asked them to have a resource page with their website so that parents, if they need information, they can go directly to the Family Liaison resource page, and any information that Mark shares, United Way shares, they add that to their resource page so that the families will only have to go to one place. And they work 24 hours a week. Some work Tuesday through Friday, some work Monday through Thursday. They develop their schedule with their principal. And again, they are taught to be the voice that a family may need to get assistance with resources. They may have some questions about the academics, and maybe they couldn't get in touch with the principal or the teacher at that time, so they can tell the family liaison and they will make the connection. They are trained in 211 to, if families come and they have different needs, they can go on 211 and give them information, or they can connect them directly with United Way. Presently, we are looking for liaisons for 8 more schools. I've had 2 liaisons that resigned because they got another job, and then we have 6 openings. And it's coming from our Hewlett grant, where we're able to fund the more liaisons this year. And so we have our job postings out everywhere, trying to encourage people to come and to be a part. And it may be somewhat a problem because the pay is not that great. And I will say it now, $12 an hour is what they get with no benefits. And it's kind of hard to find people that's able to live off of that. But we have found great people. A lot of them are retired professionals. We have social workers, those different ones who have worked in Ohio Means job functions at their job when they were working. And we have a host of different people that are working. Some moms that don't want to work full time, but want to be a part of education still in this manner. So they are hard workers. That's all I have to say. We asked them to do family academies. At least we wanted them to do about 2 a year, so that whatever topic that the families think that they may need more information on, we wanted them to be able to create that, develop that, and invite parents to come and to be engaged with that. We have right now 2 family resource centers in our district, and I'm sure you're aware of it. One of the areas is Robinson Elementary School, where we have Shakira Hunter, and we just hired a liaison to work with her at that school. And then we have Autumn Reynolds that's at Helen Arnold, and our liaison there is Myra Woody, and they're working together fantastically. They're doing a great job. And so this is what I have to share with you. If you have any questions, I'm here.
We did put some information out in a social media and web to promote those openings, just so you know.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Did anyone have any questions for Mrs. Walker?
Can
So-
you
so-
Facebook?
So I actually do. So, I mean, we talked about the population that Mrs. Wynn works with. Have you observed like any other constituencies that you think have been challenging to communicate with? And do you have any ideas or thoughts on how to better reach those constituencies outside of what we've heard already?
Like Lloyd did say, at Forest Hill, I have the liaison over there that has created classes, Google Classrooms for families to assist them. That has been very, very positive, because what she has found out, of course, is a lot of the Nepali families, they don't read their language. And so it's good for her to be able to have the class and to be able to talk with them, to teach them how to do whatever it might be. Over at North, we have Madan, who is very, very active in the community in helping families and trying to get the kids who are not where they should be to be in school, and to talk to families to encourage them. But that is where we are right now. At Harris Jackson, we have Babu, who is there to assist Mrs. Aller with the families there. And, you know, they call them and they tell them that they don't understand certain things. So it's very positive to have them there to assist them in whatever it might be. And we're always looking for more, well, not always, but we do have an opening at Jennings. And we would like to, if possible, find someone that speaks the Nepali language. As Lloyd said, that's we have many, many families that speak Nepali.
So I'm not sure who could answer this particular question. So have we had any conversations or thought about engaging or training volunteers to support family liaisons in the community?
No, I know it hasn't happened in our office, not yet. That's a good thought. No, Lloyd? No.
No, I think like any language, the key is to build that relationship. And I think that I think back to my mom. So my family are refugees. We came in 1975, and I'm an Akron Public School graduate and with 12 children. And so when I do this job, I would tell you, I'm able to look at that lens through my parents. You know, what would they need in order to help their kids? So I think if we always keep that in mind, you know, that all of our kids and our families, how can we help them and try anything we can do preventive? That would be great. But the key, I think, is first we have to make it welcoming, right, for them to come and know. And I think Akron Public Schools have put in place a lot of that. And as we continue to build that relationship, I think PTA will build up. You'll get more diverse PTA, and then you'll get more people in who's going to want to be a part of the schools. So I think what May is doing is wonderful. And even with our interpreters, as they're building that relationship and being visual at the parent meetings, makes our parents comfortable to come in. And once they feel comfortable, they're able to volunteer. But the other thing is, as refugees, a lot of them work different shifts. So they work night shift, and jobs are hard to come by. So right now, that some of them may work 2 shifts, you know, just to support their kids. Our Congolese families are perfect examples. They have a lot of children too, so they need to have jobs to help support their families. But I think we're starting to see more of even our staff. We have a TSS who's Nepali, Mr. Sudan Rai. You know, we have a lot of bilingual staff that are, it's nice to see that our refugees are represented in our staff. And seeing our graduates from North, you know, hiring a lot of the kids from North to come back and help our communities. I think we have a lot in place. We just need to continue to build on it and expand it.
Mhm.
Thank you. I mean, and that was my thought, you know, as you have helped so many people over the years, those are the very people, you know, who can come back because they have that understanding of what it's like. So,
And Miss Autry, I want to say my one liaison at North High School, he graduated from North High School. We do try to go back and find those who have graduated to see if they are interested in becoming a liaison, maybe even while they are attending classes. But if it, you know, the classes sometimes don't always work out with the hours, the schedule that they need to work. But we have researched that and we do try and do that.
I think that would even be a future good pathway for our college and career academies.
Right, right.
Because there's a need there, obviously.
Yes.
So we have about 8 minutes left. I didn't know if Mrs. Isaac had anything she wanted to share, or any of my fellow board members had anything they wanted to share.
I'm good for now. Thank you.
I had a few things I could update you on just really fast, just sort of tick them off, just so you can see what else we're doing.
Sure.
It's kind of daily stuff. We're of course working with everybody on graduation, because part of that is going to be involve some audio-visual presentation. So we're starting to plan that. Teacher of the Year probably will be virtual ceremony again this year. We're working on that. Kindergarten registration, making a big push to get kids register for kindergarten, early learning, preschool, all that. We've got a lot of work to do on that. A lot of exciting stuff. Working with Carla Chapman on diversity, equity, and inclusion of some way of adding it to our brand, if you will, on our website, making it part of who we are and integrating it. Cleveland Browns Stay in the Game program with Arby's and Browns Foundation. We continue to sort of slow down a little bit, but we're picking that back up now that everything's getting back to normal. Ryan Rittenhouse continues to do video segments, regular video segments. I don't know how he's done them for a year, but he manages to come up with something almost every day for an entire year. So those are sort of the highlights of we have newsletters we do several newsletters every week. So there's APS staff spotlight profiling some of our staff members as nominated by their coworkers. We have just, you know, it's just all this stuff. And Tommy is with us too. And if there's anything, Tommy, if you're still there, you still there, Tommy? Uh-oh, I'm gonna get him in trouble here. He was here.
I'm here.
Yay. Is there anything you'd like to throw in, sir?
Well, I just want to say I'm excited that we have 85 instruments that have come through the radio station that we're donating into the schools throughout the early part of the summer, and a scholarship program as well that we're excited to share with everyone down the road.
Musical instruments, Diana, if you're familiar with that program, it's really great. And Tommy is going to also co-host the Teacher of the Year, along with Nancy Sinning, who is one of his on-air personalities there, who's wonderful. So the two of them are going to help us out doing the emceeing for that event, which will make it really good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any? Val or Bruce have anything they want to add? Or I'm sorry, Miss Isaac, I didn't know if you had the opportunity to share anything that was important.
Well, I guess just maybe pointing out that, you know, we have our district and school websites. We also have our school messenger that delivers all calls to families, and an email system within eSchool. We have Home Access Center, where parents go for their students' grades, but they can also get messaging in Home Access Center. In addition to Google Classroom, so you can add guardians to Google Classroom, and there's communications in that method. And also like building signages that have the signs outside of buildings, in addition to the social media. I was trying to think in my mind of a running list, and the more I think, the more I can come up with different ways that we use to communicate internally and externally. And I know this isn't completely about internal, but we also have our hub intranet, and that has everything that our internal staff uses to support teaching and learning and the business side and human resources. And that's the public doesn't get there, but there's still a lot of good communication information that's on there as well. Because obviously when we talk about communication, we have that external audience and we have that internal audience too.
It's an excellent point. Anyone else?
So, I'm just going to say, I think it's exciting just to hear of all the things that are going on, especially with our communication, because I think that's vitally important when you talk about marketing and talk about our district. We got to brand it, we got to market it, and we got to get it out there so people can see and know that all the good things that we're doing. So I'm really glad to see that that'll happen, because we talk about being the #1 school district in the country. And if people don't know about your school district, you're not the #1, but we get it out there, they know it, and we can be #1. We're doing a lot of good things across the country, across the state, first of all, but across the country that a lot of people don't even know about. They hear about the I Promise School because it's got LeBron's name on it, but if it didn't have LeBron's name on it, would it be something that was heard? So we can tell our story, make sure it gets out there, and that way, that's how we get to the top. That's all I wanted to say, but you guys are doing a good job. I like what's being said and what's done right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
Yep, so I'd like to concur that I just want to thank everybody for their great work that we're doing. I feel like our district really does have a really strong foundation on which to build. So anything here is never meant to be negative or critical. We just want to build on what we have and get better. So I think we've heard a lot of the good work coming out, of the North Hill cluster, or in particular. So just keeping all of that in mind as we move forward, how can we integrate those things into what we're doing? If that's something we can just kind of ponder on between now and our next meeting, as well as just giving you a little quick reminder of the timeline that President Akbar gave us. He wanted us to have a draft report by July on these items. Again, of who the constituencies are, additional ideas on how to close the gaps, and then some of the messages. So those 3 areas are what we're kind of going to incorporate into the report. So moving forward for our next meeting, I can have something sent out. I forget what it's called, but I love that one thing I think we use where everybody can just plug in a good date for them. So we'll make sure that gets out for a meeting sometime at the end of April. But also, I'd love to hear about who do you think another invited perspective should be to this committee. And what comes to mind, I know for me, our secretaries, who are a big part of our communication tool in the district. I would love to hear from them. So that's a representative from secretaries, be it through a survey or if they can come to the meeting. It's just an idea that I have, but of course, it's not just about me, but something to think about moving forward for our next meeting.
Hey, Diana, I think that it would be good to have Marsha Pullman from College and Career Academies that's a huge part, obviously, of what we do, and it's getting huger all the time. So, and she is intimately involved in what they're doing as part of our messaging, part of what we do. But you know, at some point in time, it's all going to have to be integrated into one thing here. So, and I think you clearly would have questions for her about where they're going and what they're doing, because it is a little bit different than the daily grind of what we do.
Thank you. That's a good idea. So we can get her on the invite. Anything else? Any other comments, questions, concerns?
Right on time.
Yes. Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate your patience and support in all of this. Again, thank you to the team members. Feel free to reach out with any comments. These lunchtime meetings are good for me. So hopefully we can just, again, keep moving forward and building upon what we're already doing. So if there's nothing else, we can adjourn at this time.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you,
everybody have a good
everyone.
evening.
Thank
Good day.
you.
Thank you.